May 23, 1944. Midnight. A fog-shrouded field in East Anglia, England. The air hangs heavy with the scent of damp earth and diesel, pierced by the low hiss of air compressors straining against the night. Private First Class Bernie Bluestein crouches in the shadows, his hands slick with sweat as he wrestles a massive rubber sheet into shape. It's not a tent or a parachute, it's a tank. An M4 Sherman, to be exact. Inflating like a grotesque balloon under the pale moonlight. Around him, a handful of men from the 603rd Camouflage Engineering Battalion work in tense silence, their breaths visible in the chill. One wrong move, one loud clank, and the illusion shatters. German reconnaissance planes drone overhead, invisible but ever-present, hunting for signs of the Allied buildup. Bluestein's heart pounds will. They spot the seams, the unnatural bulge where steel should be. You can almost feel the weight of secrecy pressing down, like the blackout curtains drawn across all of Europe. These aren't ordinary soldiers. They're artists, designers, sound wizards drafted into a war where the canvas is the battlefield itself. Bluestein, a young illustrator from New York, glances at Sergeant Bill Blass, the fashion prodigy turned camouflage expert, who's meticulously painting fake tread marks on the inflating hull. Steady now, Blass whispers, his voice a thread in the dark. Make it look lived in, boys. Scratches might give it soul. The tank swells to full size, 93 pounds of rubber mimicking 30 tons of armor. Nearby, radio operators from the signal company special huddle over their sets, practicing Morse code rhythms that mimic entire divisions on the move. ... A phantom army awakens. This is no ordinary unit. This is the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, the ghost army born from the desperate genius of Allied intelligence. It all started 2 years earlier, in the sands of North Africa, where British forces under General Bernard Montgomery pulled off a masterstroke against Erwin Rommel. The Desert Fox. Operation Bertram. Trucks disguised as tanks, dummies masking real movements. Radio chatter, flooding the ether with lies. The Brits turned deception into an art form, fooling Rommel into defending the wrong flank at El Alamein. Word spread like wildfire through Allied command. In London, American planners Colonel Billy Harris and Major Ralph Ingersoll Harris, the pragmatic tactician. Ingersoll, the visionary dreamer, saw the potential. Why fight fair when you can fight smart? Ingersoll argued in hushed meetings at Chief Headquarters. Harris nodded, sketching out a unit that could multiply forces without firing a shot. By January 20th, 1944, at Camp Forest in Tennessee, the Ghost Army materialized, recruited from art schools, ad agencies, and engineering firms. These 1,100 men averaged an IQ of 119th, the sharpest minds the Army could muster. Painter Ellsworth Kelly, photographer Art Kane, even future celebrities like Blaste traded brushes for blueprints. Divided into 4 specialized outfits. The 603rd for visual tricks, inflating tanks, jeeps, and artillery that looked real from 10,000 feet. The 3,132nd Signal Service Company for sonic warfare, blasting recorded rumbles of troop convoys from massive speakers. The Signal Company's special for radio deception, impersonating operators with uncanny accuracy. And the 406th Combat Engineers for security and demolition, ensuring the show went on without interruption. Training was a bizarre ballet of illusion. In the Tennessee woods, they'd set up fake headquarters, complete with phony generals strutting in borrowed stars. Act the part, instructors barked. If you're a colonel, bark like one. Radio men studied real Unix fists. The unique tap of each operator's key to forged transmissions that screamed authenticity. This is Fox Company, moving east at 0300. They'd broadcast, while the real Fox Company slipped away unseen. Sound trucks rehearsed symphonies of war. The growl of engines, the clank of tank tracks, shouts of drill sergeants echoing for miles, and the inflatables, hundreds of them, from half-tracks to howitzers deployed under cover of night, deflated at dawn like ghosts vanishing with the mist. But East Anglia, in May 1944, was no drill. The invasion of Fortress Europe loomed, and the Ghost Army was the linchpin of Operation Fortitude, the grand deception shielding D-Day. Fortitude South aimed to convince Hitler that the main blow would land at Pas-de-Calais, not Normandy. Bluestein steps back as the tank settles, its rubber skin taut and convincing. A low-flying Luftwaffe spotter might bite thousands of tons of armor poised to strike. But tension coils tighter. Whispers ripple through the team. German intelligence is biting. Enigma intercepts confirm IT Panzer divisions shifting north, away from Normandy. Yet one slip, one deflated decoy in daylight, and the ruse crumbles. As dawn creeps closer, the men pack up, hearts racing. What if the Germans probe deeper? What secrets lurk in the signals they're about to unleash? The Phantom Symphony, the first pale light of dawn, bleeds across the English fields, turning the inflated Shermans into ghostly silhouettes. Bernie Bluestein wipes sweat from his brow, the compressor's final hiss fading into silence. The team works fast, deflate, fold, load every second counts. By sunrise, the field must look empty again. Just another quiet patch of farmland. No trace of the armored division that never was. As the trucks rumble away toward the next staging area, the real deception begins to hum in the ether. Across the channel, German radio intercept teams hunched over their sets in bunkers along the Atlantic wall strain to catch every crackle. They hear it. The distinctive fist of operators from the real 4th Armored Division. The rhythmic tap-tap of keys that only those men could produce. But the operators are long gone. Slipped south toward Normandy under cover of night. In their place, men from the signal company special sit in canvas-sided trucks, mimicking those same patterns with eerie precision. They've studied recordings for months. Speed, pauses, even the occasional sloppy dash when a man was tired or cold. Make it human, their instructors drilled. A perfect fist screams fake. These radio ghosts flood the airwaves with scripted traffic, supply requisitions for thousands of gallons of fuel, casualty reports that never happened, orders shifting phantom battalions toward Calais. The chatter builds like a storm urgent, routine, believable. Enigma decoders at Bletchley Park confirm the bite. German High Command is buying it. Panzer Lehr. Division wheels north. The 15th Army stays put, guarding beaches that will never see the main assault. You can almost hear the collective exhale in Chafe headquarters as the reports come in. The deception is holding, but holding how long? June 6th, 1944. Dawn over Normandy, while the real invasion storm rages on Omaha, Utah. Gold, Juno, Sword. The Ghost Army remains in England a little longer, keeping the illusion alive. Inflatable landing crafts still bob in the Thames estuary. Fake troop concentrations swell the Kent countryside. Patton's fictitious Fusag headquarters bristles with activity. Phony generals barking orders. Staff cars racing between tents that house no one. The radio deception intensifies. Operators impersonate an entire army group on the move, demanding priority rail space, complaining about delays. German reconnaissance planes photograph the dummies from high altitude, shadows and tracks carefully staged to look authentic. The Luftwaffe bombs empty fields. The Wehrmacht holds reserves back. Then, 2 weeks after D-Day, the Ghost Army crosses the channel. They land quietly at Utah Beach, trucks laden with secrets. No fanfare, no parades, just another convoy in the endless stream of supplies. But their first real test awaits in Brittany. The port of Brest is locked tight. German defenders dug in deep. The Allies need to encircle the city without committing full divisions needed elsewhere. Enter Operation Brest, the Ghost Army's baptism. By deception, under cover of darkness, near the front, sonic trucks half-tracks, mounting massive 500-pound speaker arrays creep. Within 500 yards of German lines, the 3,132nd Signal Service Company is prepared meticulously. Back at Fort Knox, Bell Labs engineers helped record the authentic roar. Tanks grinding over gravel, engines revving, treads clanking, even the shouts of drivers cursing the mud. Wire recorders, cutting-edge technology, fragile and temperamental capture it all. Now, in the French night, technicians mix the tracks live. Overlay truck convoys with bridge-building hammers. Add the low rumble of artillery positioning. The sound rolls out like thunder, carting up to 15 miles on a still night. Private First Class Jack Massey, sound engineer turned deceiver, adjusts the volume knobs with trembling fingers. The speakers boom. The growl of an armored column advancing. German spotters tense. Searchlights sweep the darkness. Machine guns chatter into the void. Meanwhile, the 603rd deploys over 50 inflatable tanks along the ridges. Jeeps and trucks inflated nearby. Campfires flickering. Laundry strung between trees for that lived-in touch. Radio trucks broadcast the corresponding traffic. This is Baker Company. We're pushing forward. Request air cover. The voices sound exhausted. Authentic operators sweating in the truck beds. Keys clicking in rhythm. The Germans react. Artillery opens up on the sonic mirage. Reserves shift to meet the attack. Brest falls faster. The real encirclement succeeding with lighter casualties, but the cost of illusion is high. Sonic trucks operate exposed. Close enough for small arms fire. One wrong wind shift, one curious patrol, and the game ends in blood. As the Brest operation winds down, word spreads through the ranks. The next deception will be bigger. The push east is coming. The Ruhr, the Rhine reverse. To cross. Cetius to take. The Ghost Army packs up once more. The sound of their own phantom symphony still echoing in German ears. But in the quiet moments between setups, doubt creeps in. How long can rubber and recordings fool a desperate enemy? What happens when the Germans stop believing and start hunting? September 1944. The Western Front has cracked open. Patton's Third Army races across France. But the Germans are not broken, they're regrouping, fortifying the natural moat of the Rhine. Every bridge, every ford, every pontoon crossing is now a prize worth rivers of blood. The Allies need to punch through fast, before winter turns the battlefield into frozen mud and the Luftwaffe regains its breath. Intelligence warns. Hitler has ordered the construction of new defensive lines along the river. If the Germans guess where the main thrust will come, they can concentrate their dwindling panzers and turn the crossing into another deal. The Ghost Army receives its most audacious mission yet, Operation Biersen. The plan is brutal in its simplicity. The real Ninth Army will cross the Rhine south of Düsseldorf, near the industrial hearth of the Ruhr. But the Germans must be convinced the main effort will strike much farther north, near Wessel, drawing their reserves away from the true objective. To sell the lie, the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops will impersonate two entire divisions. The 30th Infantry and the 79th Infantry, complete with their radio signatures, sonic footprints, and visual presence. The staging area is a stretch of Belgian farmland near the German border, just out of artillery range. By now the men move like a traveling theater troupe that has performed the same play 100 times. Yet each night feels like opening night. Sergeant Victor Daud, former commercial artist, supervises the visual deception. 50 inflatable 105mm howitzers are inflated and positioned in realistic battery formations, their barrels carefully angled toward the distant Rhine. Dummy trucks and jeeps, painted with the correct divisional markings, are parked in neat rows. Campfires burn low, sending thin smoke into the gray sky. Laundry lines sag with freshly washed uniforms. The illusion is so complete that even American pilots occasionally radio back asking why friendly troops are so far forward. But the real magic happens after dark. The sonic trucks now nikna mid. Canned thunder roll forward under blackout conditions. Technicians from the 3132nd have refined their library. New recordings of the 30th Division's distinctive engine noises, the particular cadence of their march songs drifting on the wind, the metallic clatter of mess kits at chow time. Jack Massey, now a veteran of the deception game, stands beside the speaker array, headphones clamped tight. He cues the track. A convoy of heavy trucks grinding up a hill, gears shifting, brakes squealing, then layered underneath, the unmistakable bark of orders in the flat Midwestern accents of the 30th Infantry. Move it. Move it. Crowds ain't gonna wait for us to finish coffee. The sound rolls across the river like a living thing. German listening posts pick it up immediately. Searchlights stab the night. 88mm guns open fire on empty fields. The next morning, Luftwaffe reconnaissance planes photographed the dummy concentrations. The tracks deliberately churned by real jeeps dragging chains. Radio deception reaches fever pitch. Signal companies' special operators, now fluent in the fists of the 30th and 79th Division radio chiefs, broadcast a steady stream of traffic. Bridge engineer requests, medical evacuation priorities, ammunition resupply for an imminent assault at Wessel. They even staged leaks. Careless chatter about D+1 objectives. Unit nicknames. The kind of detail only insiders would know. Across the river, Field Marshal Walthar Model, commander of Army Group B, grows convinced. Intelligence summaries flood Berlin. The Americans are massing 2 fresh divisions for a thrust toward Wessel. Model shifts the 116th Panzer Division and elements of the 2nd Fallschirmgarde north to meet the expected blow. Every kilometer they move is a kilometer farther from the real crossing site. March 23rd to 24th, 1945, the night of the real assault. While the 9th Army, as engineers throw pontoon bridges under murderous fire and assault boats churn across the dark water, the Ghost Army keeps up the charade. Sonic trucks continue their phantom symphony near Wessel. Inflatable artillery fires, blank rounds muzzle flashes simulated with carefully timed flares. Radio operators broadcast desperate messages. Weary pinned don't request immediate artillery support. The Germans, now fully committed to defending the wrong sector, pour shells into the night. By dawn on March 24th, the real bridgehead is secure. The 9th Army pours across, tanks rumbling over pontoons, infantry swarming the far bank. The Ghost Army's work is done. They pack up, quietly deflate the howitzers, fold the speakers, silence the radios. As they pull back toward rear areas, the men are exhausted, filthy, and strangely exhilarated. They have never fired a shot in anger, yet they have moved divisions, saved lives, shortened the war by weeks, perhaps months. But the cost is creeping higher. The Germans are learning. Patrols grow bolder. Interrogated prisoners speak of the rubber army with a mix of fury and grudging respect. One captured officer spits, "You Americans fight with toys and lies. The Ghost Army knows the truth. The toys are working until they don't." As spring turns to the final push into Germany, a new order arrives. The biggest deception of all is coming. One final act, one last river, one last chance to fool the enemy before the Reich collapses. And this time the stakes are Berlin itself. The last curtain, Berlin's shadow play, April 1945. The Reich is bleeding out. Berlin is a fortress of rubble and desperation. Soviet armies grind forward from the east. American and British forces surge from the west. Yet even in collapse, the German high command clings to one last hope, that the Western Allies will turn on their Soviet partners, that a separate peace might yet save what remains of the thousand-year Reich. Intelligence intercepts confirm that Hitler and his inner circle are obsessed with the possibility of an American thrust deep into central Germany, perhaps even racing the Red Army to Berlin itself. The Ghost Army is summoned for its final, most theatrical performance. Operation Vagrant. The mission: convince the crumbling Wehrmacht that a massive American armored spearhead the fictitious, the 24th Corps is, driving hard toward Leipzig and beyond, threatening to slice straight into the heart of the collapsing Reich, and possibly link up with the Soviets far sooner than planned. The goal is not conquest, but distraction. Every German division pulled south to meet this phantom threat. Is one less division facing the real American and British armies crossing the Elbe, or the Soviets smashing through the Silo Heights. The staging ground is a scarred stretch of Thuringian plain near Gotha, less than 150 miles from Berlin. By now, the men of the 23rd are gaunt, their eyes hollow from months of night work and constant tension. The inflatables are patched and repatched. Some tanks bear the scars of hasty deflations, rubber-pocked with shrapnel holes. Yet they still rise under the compressors, still gleam convincingly when the light is right. Sergeant Bill Blast, cigarette perpetually dangling from his lips, directs the placement of the last batch of Damium 10-tank destroyers. "Angle them toward the east," he mutters. "Let the spotter plane see the silhouettes against the sunrise. Make them look hungry." The sonic deception reaches new heights of sophistication. The 3132nd has spent the winter perfecting layered soundscapes. Now, in the cold German spring, the canned thunder trucks position themselves along a 20-mile front. Technicians cue a rolling symphony. The deep-throated roar of Sherman engines climbing hills, the metallic screech of tank tracks on cobblestone, the overlapping shouts of company commanders in broad Midwestern drawls. They had the chaos of a real advance, occasional bursts of small arms fire, blank rounds fired into the dirt. The crackle of radios relaying urgent orders. Even the distant, rhythmic thud of artillery preparation. The sound is so convincing that American forward observers occasionally request fire missions on their own phantom positions. Radio deception is relentless. Signal company special operators impersonate the entire communications net of the 24th Corps. They broadcast in clear, sometimes even in the open, letting German direction-finding teams triangulate the source. Traffic is frantic. Requests for emergency fuel drops. Reports of heavy casualties. Demands for engineer support to bridge the Saul River. They stage breakdowns. Simulated traffic jams. The kind of friction that makes an army feel real. One operator, exhausted after 18 hours on the key, accidentally sends a genuine curse word in Morse, the tapped equivalent of damn it all. The team freezes. Then they laugh quietly. It's perfect. Too perfect would be suspicious. German reconnaissance aircraft, who still flying, photograph the concentrations. Dummy columns stretch 4 miles. Jeeps and half-tracks arranged in realistic march order. Artillery batteries dug in with sandbagged emplacements. Real engineers from the 406th have even laid fake telephone lines and strung barbed wire to sell the perimeter. At night, vehicle lights flicker in disciplined patterns, simulating convoys on the move. The bite is immediate and desperate. Field Marshal model, already stretched to breaking, diverts the remnants of the 11th Panzer Army and scattered Volkssturm units south to block the American thrust. Every mile they march is a mile they cannot use against the real Allied advance. The Red Army's timetable accelerates. The Western Allies consolidate bridgeheads across the Elbe without the expected counter. April 25, 1945. Torgau, on the Elbe. American and Soviet troops meet for the first symbolic handshake. The Ghost Army is already pulling back, deflating their last rubber giants under the cover of a cold rain. The war is ending. The men know it. They pack the sound trucks, coil the speaker cables, silence the radios for the final time. In the quiet aftermath, the numbers begin to emerge. Official estimates will later credit the 23rd Headquarters Special troops with saving between 15,000 and 30,000 American lives across their 20-odd battlefield deceptions. They moved entire German armies, shortened campaigns, preserved towns from bombardment. They did it with rubber, canvas, wire recorders, and the sheer audacity of men who understood that sometimes the most powerful weapon is not steel, but belief. As the last truck rolls west toward Le Havre and the long voyage home, Bernie Blestein looks back at the empty field. No tanks, no speakers, no phantom divisions. Just churned earth. And silence. The ghosts are going home. The unseen victory echoes of the ghosts, May 1945. The shooting has stopped. Europe is a landscape of craters, shattered spires, and the long silence that follows. In the rear areas near Le Havre, the men of the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops line up for the last time. No parades, no medals pinned to chests in front of cheering crowds, just a quiet formation on a muddy parade ground. Duffel bags at their feet, waiting for the ships that will carry them home. They look ordinary. No young faces aged by too many sleepless nights. Hands calloused from pumping air into rubber holes and coiling speaker cable. Bernie Blestein stands beside Bill Blass, both in faded fatigues that still carry the faint smell of diesel and wet canvas. Nearby, Jack Massey cradles a dented wire recorder like a child holding a favorite toy. The machines that once thundered phantom armies are silent, packed away in crates marked surplus. The inflatables have been deflated for the final time, folded into tight bundles, and stacked like forgotten stage props. After the play is closed, Colonel Billy Harris walks the line slowly. The architect of the Ghost Army carries no swagger. Only the quiet weight of a man who knows what his soldiers accomplished without ever being able to tell the full story. "You boys," he says, voice rough from years of cigarettes and classified briefings, "did more with hot air and imagination than most divisions did with tanks and artillery. A few men chuckle, the sound thin and tired. They know the numbers by heart now, even if the world never will. Declassified estimates will one day place the tally at roughly 30 major They drew panzer divisions away from Normandy, accelerated the fall of Brest, precious hours at the Rhine, and in the final weeks kept thousands of German troops marching in the wrong direction while the real Allied armies closed the noose. Lives, Sabbath, between 15 and 30,000, according to the careful post-war calculations of staff officers who had seen the Bucha S-bill of every other campaign. The Ghost Army never fired a shot in combat. Yet, they bled the enemy by convincing him he was surrounded when he was not, attacked when no one was coming, defeated when he still had strength left. The secrecy oath they signed in 1944 binds them still. They cannot speak of their work, not to wives, not to parents, not even to each other in public. The Army classifies the entire operation, boxers the records, stamps them top secret eyes only, and buries them in vaults. For decades, the men will carry the truth like a private wound. When friends ask what they did in the war, they answer with practiced shrugs. Camouflage, engineering, nothing special. The lie is the last deception they perform, yet fragments leak out. A 1950s magazine article mentions dummy armies in passing. A veteran's memoir in the 1970s drops cryptic hints. Then, in 1985, the Army finally declassifies the files. Historians descend on the archives, like archaeologists on a lost city. The story begins to surface slowly, haltingly, in books, documentaries, museum exhibits. The Ghost Army receives its belated recognition, a Congressional Gold Medal in 2022, the highest civilian honor Congress can bestow. By then, most of the men are gone. Bernie Bluestein, Bill Blust, Jack Massey, Ellsworth Kelly, they leave behind only the quiet knowledge that they helped end the deadliest war in human history with nothing more than illusion. In the final days at Le Havre, as the troopship's gangplank lowers, the men board without ceremony. The deck vibrates under their boots. Someone starts a soft, ragged version of When the Yanks Go Marching In. The words, half remembered. Laughter ripples down the line, genuine this time. From Der Isle, they watch the coastline of France recede. Somewhere beneath that gray horizon lie the fields they filled with rubber tanks, the nights they filled with phantom thunder, the rivers they helped cross without ever touching the far bank. The war took everything from millions. From these 1,100 men, it took only their silence and gave them, in return, the strange, invisible gift of having saved lives they would never meet. The ship turns into the Atlantic swell. Engines thrum. The continent fades, and somewhere in the distance, across the water and across the years, the last echo of a recorded Sherman engine fades into silence. The ghosts have come home.